Before we begin, thank you very much to username ladiesman217 for joining the Patreon campaign. I mean, the real username ladiesman217? Are you username ladiesman217? Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Thank you for that reference. That makes my day. I love the silly shoutouts. I love the determination you guys have to keep going. We're going to get to the end of the month, by the way. I have almost enough shoutouts to get me to the absolute end of the month, which would mean you guys have kept this shoutout streak going for 8 months. 8 months, and you still will not let me use my normal intro. But no, thank you very much for the support. Remember, if my Patreon hits the $1,000 mark, we are going to bring back Rush reviews, and we're going to be bringing back sometimes cartoon reviews are going to come back. So we're going to do some old school TJOmega stuff if we hit that mark. So thank you to everyone getting us a little bit closer. So PulseCon is in the record books. So now we get to do the fun part, and we get to speculate. So now one of the things I love to do, and sometimes almost to a fault, when a new wave of toys gets announced from Hasbro, I don't really look at the wave itself. I kind of look at what the wave might be, what it might turn into. So that's kind of what I'm looking at today, because we know Hasbro always has repaints and retools in mind. So here I am, just kind of going through the PulseCon reveals and thinking to myself, what would I like these to be? Or more to the point, I'm trying to see if my predictor is still on point, and I can actually predict what these toys are going to become, or at the very least what they'll become first, right? And some are obvious and some need discussion. So we start here with Snarl/Tasmania Kid. Now, he's a very easy one to start with because frankly, he's only got one repaint ever, and that's Bound Rogue. You might get in trouble with the Sonic the Hedgehog people if you did that in America. But it really is the only choice we got here. Now, the trick to Bound Rogue, it's obscure. Robot Masters repaints are obscure. Like, that is like bottom of the barrel as far as like characters who were never anything, but they exist, so maybe? So you really don't have many options, do you? This one might be one of those that gets retooled into something entirely different. They might do something crazy and figure out how to make like armadillo out of it or something. But that's wild speculation there. It's a weird choice. It's a weird choice. I appreciate the choice, but we also remember they don't necessarily need to repaint or retool core classes. There's plenty of that have been made that never got a repaint or reuse in any way, shape, or form. So it's not likely you're going to see Bound Rogue. I think it's too obscure. I don't think you're going to see any reuse of Tasmania Kid, period. Wouldn't mind being wrong, though. Wouldn't mind being wrong. Next up on the list, I was going to call it Galvatron because that's where my brain is immediately going. Now, of course, he's going to be repainted into Galvatron because he's Energon Megatron, who already looks like Galvatron. Now, here's the trick. Which one do you do? Because the American and Japanese ones have very distinct looks to them. The thing is, at the size of this toy, I don't think Hasbro's going to be willing to put in the effort to make it look like the American version with its more detailed paint apps. And because they went with the bright green here instead of translucent, I think they're going to lean more show accurate. I think this will be the first American debut of a cartoon accurate Galvatron from Energon. Yeah, it'll be in a tiny scale, but he's going to have the all red belly. He's going to have the blue crown. He's going to have, the little things that you wouldn't normally associate with Galvatron's design that the Energon cartoon for some reason threw in. So that's my prediction there, is cartoon accurate Energon for the first time in America. Now, let's see. Next up, we're skipping one of the cores. We're going to talk about the Armorizers later. Let's talk about Bumblebee. And of course, because it's animated Bumblebee, there is an extremely obvious choice who was very unjustly canceled from the original animated line, and that's going to be Wasp. Wasp is pretty obvious. They wanted to do it originally in the animated toy line, but they kind of ran short on budget. At the time, it wasn't a commonplace to incorporate extra head toolings into figures, so they have a specific budget for which ones can be retooled and which can't. So the wave, the option was either the Cybertron, the Cybertronian mode Ratchet could get a new head as Ironhide in a retool, or Wasp could get a new head, and they opted for Ironhide's head. Now, when it came to Wasp, they were going to go with, like, this is like the in-between stage. It was after he took Bumblebee's physical form, but before he changed color. That was the angle they were going with just being a repaint of Bumblebee. That's not going to happen here. It's very likely that the Wasp head is already tooled into that Bumblebee toy. Would not be surprised at all to see that down the line. Probably still in Legacy United. Then it gets me thinking, like, obviously they have more than that in mind. Like, obviously it can't just be Wasp that's going to be get redone at some point. So I feel like the toy, the way it's designed, would basically be a fill-in for just about any throttle bot you'd like. Like, he's got the same kind of, like, most of the throttle bots have that same similar style chest. They've got the same boxy look that toy has. I mean, detail's not exact, but then again, it just kind of feels like the right mold to do it. You know, especially the vehicle mode being this kind of little squat thing already. You might as well. It seems like the choice to be made. The vehicle mode being so round in the back is a little bit different than a lot of the throttle bots, but I think you could work with it. I mean, at the very least, if we're talking about the possibility and which ones are most likely, I think that is not a bad fit. And throttle bots are one of the few realms of Generation 1 that have really never been tapped. I mean, yeah, we had a Bumblebee retooled into one before, but now it's a passing note. It's a side note at best. Most throttle bots still have not gotten a new toy, so I think this could be a good mold to give them a few. It can be used for several, now that I think about it. Windblade is another one that kind of has an expected retool, and I believe we've even seen, I think there's even listings or rumors out there that it's coming back. Slipstream, who's already been redone from Windblade's mold already. It's not a bad choice. I mean, she's missing certain Seeker aesthetics that have to be tooled into Windblade in order to make it look better. But it's a possibility. Now, I prefer it when it's a sleek version of a normal Seeker, but I would take this. I mean, I suppose you could remold the wings to work a little bit better. You know, you don't need the VTOL fans. You know, they could just be like, here's a feminine jet. All right. That said, someone pointed out something on Twitter, and I entirely agree with it, and I would love this. Yeah, I would much rather have Anode. I would much rather have Anode. To be fair, her vehicle mode is very different from Windblade's, but the most significant details that make it look the way it does is pretty easy to tool in, because most of it is the front end of her vehicle mode that makes her look more like a futuristic biplane than anything. You could do most of that just by switching out the nose cone section on Windblade, which hangs off of her back. It's just her backpack, so it doesn't really interfere with any kind of engineering to switch that out. So yeah, this is absolutely possible. And there are details like the vents on the legs that actually do kind of fit the new mold. You know, if I scroll back a couple here, you can see them. Yeah, just a little bit. I could see it. I mean, I would love to see it. What I would love to see, what I'd love to see is if they retooled something to be lug. You know, like, even if it's just like take a Rumble or Frenzy and retool it into lug and just give her like a peg on the back that lets lug ride her robot mode while she's in backpack mode. I would love that. So that's my hope. It's probably going to be Slipstream, but that's my hope. Optimus Prime is another one that's pretty obvious in the directions we're going to go. I'm going to forego the usual nemesis because it's an Optimus Prime. We're always going to see a black repaint at some point. However, I mean, there is different directions you could go with this one. I almost put in Beast Hunter's Optimus Prime from Transformers Prime into this one, because it's got that same really big hulking chest and big block shoulders. You'd need to throw a backpack in and bump it up to leader class in order to really get everything in, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. Like, that actually wouldn't be bad. I didn't put it as a visual example, though, because we do have a few obvious ones and things that I think take priority. For starters, of course, there is Motor Master. I would love if they did the appropriate thing when it came to Motor Master, and they actually called him the Motor Master. But for trademark reasons, they'll probably just use normal Motor Master, which isn't as funny, but it is, you know, legally correct. Toxitron's another one that's a very obvious. I think Toxitron is less likely, especially now that Toxitron's had the toy he was always meant to have, a G2 Optimus based one. So I think this is an outer edge possibility. Like, if we get Wasp that isn't a retail release, it'll be like 2-packed in with like Toxitron. You know, it's like Fugitives on the Run 2-pack or something in selects. It's an outside possibility for this one. You know what I would love? You know what I would love out of this toy? The thing we never got. We never got this as an American toy. It only came out in Japan. But more than that, we never got a full fire truck Optimus Prime ever. And like, it was cool that like he could separate from that and just be a normal truck, but we never got the full fire truck. So that's what I want. That's what I really want. I want a leader class version where that component separates off. Parts of it can become this final battle, like wing Optimus Prime or whatever you want to call it for trademark. And then, you know, make the rest a battle emplacement or, you know, some kind of extra accessory or extra armor, things like that. You know, I would love to actually finally get the full fire truck, and yeah, bump it up to leader in order to do it. I don't care at that point. You know, that's where you'll probably get the faceplate version of the head. You know, that's probably where you get the lighter shades of gray that are more cartoon accurate. I feel like there's parts of that toy that intentionally leave out things we would want on it, like colors that are more bright and more correct, the faceplate, specifically for something like this, a deluxe, you know, like an advanced release later on. That's my going guess at the moment. But yeah, beyond that, like, yeah, I think the most, I think the most extreme it's going to get is maybe Beast Hunters Prime. Maybe. This was a fun one. So at first, like, when I first looked at this toy, I thought to myself, like, what are you going to do with it? Like, it's such a different design. Like, what are you actually going to do with this toy in order to actually make it into a different character? And since then, ideas had occurred to me. In fact, an idea came to me like an hour after I finished the review. Or, in fact, let's see. I had a couple. So, I mean, the obvious one is Alphatrizer. But that is like, even for a BotCon toy, that still feels like an obscure pull. That feels like a selects release. That doesn't feel like something I'm actually going to walk into retail and buy, especially because we've had a couple of Alpha Trions now. We just got one in a multi-packs that was like spot on. So I can't imagine they would do like the Universe Alpha Trion stand-in, which is basically what this was. They couldn't do Beast Machine Snarl back in the day, so they used Thundertron in order to make the toy they originally imagined. It's actually Cheetor, by the way, which is super weird. But like I said, selects release at best, I think, on this one. The one I think will actually hit retail, and someone else messaged me and hit on this idea too. He would make a really nice Leo Breaker. I mean, the beast mode is a little bit different, but tooling can fix that. What's really important is the fact that he actually has a lion head for a chest, which really you either get that in this toy or you get it in Razor Claw. Either one, I would say that Leo Breaker's probably the more likely. I mean, especially if we believe the leaks and we're gonna get a little bit more Cybertron love, I would absolutely be down for a Leo Breaker of this, because that also opens up possibilities like Nemesis Breaker and like getting some crazy stuff out too. It's not going to combine with any Optimus, but at the very least, it is going to be a far more articulated version of the original Leo Breaker. We move into the leader class with Tiger Hawk, and you know what? Tiger Hawk is another one that has a super obvious one, and there's really no point of building up. It's going to be Universe Razor Claw. This one I think is remembered well enough that I wouldn't be surprised to see it as a retail exclusive, but more likely it's probably going to end up as a capsule release. It wouldn't surprise me with the toys that we have coming out, them actually doing some kind of like Universe 1.0 homage line. Because keep in mind, we're getting a Sideburn who was also in Universe 1.0 with a funky color scheme. They could potentially do that. You know, if they do more Autobot Brothers, we could get that really weird Inferno that looks like Red Alert and looks like RID Prowl. You know, things like that would be, kind of possible now, which would mean Razor Claw is possible now. I mean, the previously mentioned Bound Rogue might even be able to sneak in there because, Robot Masters kind of was, the Takara version of Universe. Weird random new characters made from old molds and a few retro ones thrown in, so maybe, just maybe. I was trying to think of like what else could you actually use Tigerhawk for with how unique his beast mode is, and nothing really came to me at all. I mean, it's gonna be a really strange mold to even reuse at any point. So I don't know. I think we're gonna get one tooling out of it, and that's probably it. Now let's talk about Armorizers. And to be honest, like when I look at both of them, the only thing that really strikes me is there's two things that strike me. Number one, I really hope they do take more liberties and kind of like push toward the Rocklord homages a little bit harder on these. I wouldn't mind one that has the colors of Boulder and Magmar. You can't call it Magmar now, thank you Pokemon, but you get my drift here. That is kind of where I'm expecting it to go. I think the repaints of those are pretty much just going to be different types of rocks. I would not be surprised to see them redone in translucent colors so they look more like gemstone, which depending on how it's done, I might not actually disagree with translucent plastic used that way. It might actually look cool, and these might not have problems with the fracturing. They probably will. They probably will. The one thing I would love to see them do with this is the thing that I would love to have seen them done with every other type of weaponizer-esque character and toy line ever, and that is I want to see them in a unified color scheme. You know how much I wish they had done all the fossilizers in just like one unified color scheme? Like here they are, they're all bone white. They're all like off yellow, like pale yellow. Go ahead and build whatever you want. It's going to look like it fits together and match. I never understood why they never do that. Even with the Junkions right now, like the Junkions always have the exact same brown and orange color schemes. And then they throw in axle grease out of nowhere in the shattered glass colors. Okay, well, thank you very much. So now my car is, off from everybody else. It's like the Volcanicus that's complete right now, by the way. All 6 are out. It's just gray and gold robot with one red boot. I hate when they do things like that. I hate when like the entire team is on point with their aesthetic and there's just one guy who forgot the dress code. Or in Axel Grease's case, one girl who forgot the dress code. So, so that's what I want. I want these to eventually, like any of them, I want them to come out in a unified color scheme. So when I put them all together, they look super cool. Not like mishmashed. Some people like the mishmashed. I kind of want things that match. And then we get to the one that started this whole thing. So I posted something on Twitter, and I still stand by this, even though people have disputed this and thrown other ideas at me. So when I look at this one, the thought that came to mind is Lockdown, specifically his evergreen design. Because if I look between the two, there are a lot of similarities. So the chest design has the windshields in the same area. If you look at the shoulders on Chase, he does have these taillight parts molded in. Those could be correctly placed if they were painted in red. The feet get me because the headlights are mounted above the toes. That's correct to Lockdown. Also correct to Lockdown are the kibble panel on the side of the arms and the forearm mounted weaponry. On here it's just sirens, but on a retool idea or just with some extra barrels attached, they could be the forearm guns for Lockdown. There's a lot to it that makes me think, yeah, that could potentially be the direction. And there is a Lockdown in the listings rumors right now. But a lot of people pointed me toward Cliffjumper from Prime, which I guess is also very likely. I wouldn't be surprised to see both of them done from this mold. What gets me about Cliffjumper is I genuinely think that, like, it's a bigger jump from chase than lockdown is. So a lot of people pointed out the fact that there's exhaust pipes now on the side of chase, which I noticed too, and that's what made me think lockdown. But they are more correct to Cliffjumper's size. The problem is coming in robot mode, because even though he does have the top of his car as the torso, he's also got a lot of details Chase couldn't have, like the headlights and the bumper being part of the chest. Chase can't do that because they're part of the feet, which obviously that looks nothing like how Cliffjumper's feet look. The arms don't look anything the right way. The shoulders are not done the right way. Now, granted, Prime characters in Legacy so far have been close enough, you know, not exact, close enough. So it wouldn't surprise me if this did become a Cliffjumper at some point. That said, it does feel like a bigger leap, and it does feel like it'd be far more incorrect than the lockdown would. Would I like to see both? Absolutely. Absolutely. But that's up to Hasbro, and you know what? I don't think Hasbro's going to turn down the chance to do 2 popular characters out of one really random choice for the Legacy line. I mean, I think that's how they come back on it, right? Is to do like collector-friendly characters out of one that is just kind of an oddball. But that's the speculation. That's the thought right now, and that pretty much covers the list. Remember, I'm not necessarily trying to, obvious, a lot of this is obvious. I'm just trying to see which ones are going to come first, or I am trying to predict Hasbro. So we're going to come back to this in, 6 months or so when the new set of listings and leaks start coming out, and we're going to see how correct I was. But for now, let's bury this time capsule. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you next time.
I'm like, I think you guys got this. I will back away, and I will see you all later.
You've got this handled.
Alaffi's like, really? You're not gonna help me? Like, it's fine now.
It's like these disgusting creatures breathing down my neck, and you're all just like, I believe in you. You got this.
All right, you seem to have this. 5 minutes.